Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are, as always, Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Mike, I know it was a big week for you, that March for Life back on Monday. And we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to talk gun control. The House this week voted 4 bills out of committee that had to deal with that issue. I wonder why gun control is their priority right now and not addressing this 3-month late state budget. What say you?
Well, it was the House Democrats that were running this legislation. There were 4 bills that came up for committee vote on Monday. Interestingly, that committee vote was scheduled kind of in a surprise fashion to keep some of the Republican legislators from actually standing on the stage at the March for Life. They scheduled it at the exact same time as the rally. And so there's some politics going on with that. But ultimately, gun control legislation, at least what was proposed by these House Democrats, is not going anywhere in the Pennsylvania legislature. There's opposition in the Senate. There's still opposition in the House, and many of them are not really popular. So I think it's being done more to make a political statement for the supporters of the progressive Democrats in the House.
Yeah. Pressure is mounting on Governor Hochul in New York, Jason, to do more to stamp out crime. She got peppered with questions at the Tonawanda Police Department this week on bail reform. I know she's promised to reform the reforms, but she seems to be taking a wait-and-see approach here. Why is that?
Well, I think she's weighing the political calculus. The electorate is concerned about crime in New York, and that is going to be a major campaign issue in 2026 when the governor is up for re-election. In fact, it was damaging to her in her last election, and it's still dogging her. However, she is facing a legislature who is reticent to make any changes to the bail reform laws, and so it is putting the governor in a difficult position that she cannot overpromise what she cannot move through the legislature.
Yeah, Michael, you mentioned the March for Life back on Monday. What a crowd. I was able to go online and see some of the pictures, and it was just amazing to see how many people. You had mentioned that this is not just the largest rally in Harrisburg, it's the largest state-led pro-life march in the country. How is the pro-life message making inroads across the Commonwealth and across the country?
It was really an exciting crowd. We had over 75 buses come from all over the Commonwealth, including many listeners who listen to this broadcast, and it was great to have all of them join us there. The pro-life message is really resonating in Pennsylvania in so many ways, but we have obstacles to overcome, not the least of which is a very pro-abortion governor in Josh Shapiro. But the message that came forth from the audience, the message that came forth from the stage and of the marchers is that life is precious and that every human life should be protected from conception till natural death. We're going to continue to fight for that. It has been a long battle and will continue to be, but we see many inroads being made in these days.
Yeah, Jason, I know you shared your vision before about how your dream is to see New York become a pro-life state. You said that for a long time. New York, a pro-life state, many would say that's an oxymoron. Certainly won't happen unless there's a fundamental power shift in Albany. Why is one-party rule so hard to break in New York State?
Well, if you look at the voter enrollment advantages that the Democrats have in New York, there are many more Democrats than Republicans and independents, and there are more independents registered than Republicans. And so it is challenging to have a strong two-party system at the state level when the Republicans are vastly outnumbered in that voter enrollment. But ultimately, the problem with where we are as a pro-life state, or if we're not a pro-life state, is a matter of a spiritual problem, not a political one. And so when the church begins to really return to their first love in Jesus Christ and recognizes the importance of pro-life values, when that spreads through the culture, we'll see that reflected in its politics as well.
Yeah. Along those lines, I want to talk about the Charlie Kirk effect on the church. His funeral back on Sunday in Arizona, just amazing. 5.5-hour revival service. I know there was politics in there as well, but for the most part, it was all about Jesus. Michael, I wonder, is this just a flash in the pan, or do you see something real here? And how does the church in Pennsylvania need to get ready for this if it is something real?
I think it is real. I've noticed it in my own church the last 2 Sundays, much more crowded. But also a famous writer, well-known writer in Western Pennsylvania, Selena Zito, wrote about churches that were packed to the gills there in the Pittsburgh area. And we're seeing it all over the Commonwealth. And I don't think it's just going to be a flash in the pan. But churches do need to recognize that the benefit of having these pews filled is to start speaking about the truth, as Jason just talked about.
Yeah, I loved what Frank Turek said at the memorial service, Jason, that Charlie Kirk is not in heaven because of what he did for Jesus. It's what Jesus did for him on the cross. And there were so many professions of faith just in that service. How does New York need to get ready, and the churches across New York need to get ready for this revival that seems to be happening? And I've seen it too in the church I attend. It was standing room only the past 2 Sundays.
Yeah, we often say courage begets courage, and I think what happened is people saw the courage of Charlie Kirk, and they are being challenged to do more themselves. And I think there's a lesson for the church there in that Charlie Kirk spoke very boldly for those basic biblical issues of the day. We think about life and human sexuality and all of the issues that maybe we're a little reticent to press into with gender identity and so many other things. But Charlie spoke very clearly to those things. And so the argument that you cannot speak clearly to the cultural and social issues of the day and still preach the gospel was kind of, just debunked through Charlie Kirk, because he really brought those two things together, and that kind of courage is what is drawing a younger generation towards his message. I'll also just quickly say that in 1956, there was a missionary. In fact, there were 5 missionaries that were killed in Ecuador. They were there to minister to the Auca Indians there, and as a result of that, there was a missionary surge that occurred following that. Many are aware of Elizabeth Elliot. Well, her husband was killed as one of those missionaries there. My wife turned to me during the services for Charlie Kirk and said, I wonder if there will be an effect in this generation like there was when Steve Saint and others were killed there. And I think we'll see that. Maybe there will be some social, cultural, political missionaries that will go out with the gospel of Jesus Christ into the public marketplace of ideas because of what is experienced.
I love your thinking there, Jason. Mike, one of the things that Erica Kirk, and that speech, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's so powerful. One of the things she said at her husband's memorial was just talked about how much Charlie wanted to restore the biblical definition of manhood in our culture. Do you think that the social experiment known as transgender indoctrination, do you think that will lose its appeal as a result of the life testimony of Charlie Kirk?
I do, and I think, Charlie and Erica both talked about God's creation order, about the notion of getting married and having children as being something that grants you great fulfillment. Charlie spoke about it quite a bit. And in a society that is looking for answers, looking for purpose, and young people who are being skewed astray by TikTok and other things to tell them that you maybe were born in the wrong body, I think turning to how God created them and embracing that notion, and then this creation order that God has made for us to flourish and to prosper, I think that the message is going to go forth in a stronger way than it has in recent decades.
Yeah. Jason, you've talked so much on this program about the harm that can come as a result of this lie that's being perpetuated by our culture that you can change your gender like you change your socks. I will ask you that same question. Where does this social experiment go if the trajectory of transgender indoctrination does not change? If that does not change, where does this conversation go next?
Well, Carl Trueman has spent quite a bit of time talking about this issue in a lot of his writings, and he looks at it from really the theological but also the anthropological approach to this. And if we don't have a better understanding of what it is to be human, well, then everything else unravels and falls apart. Thankfully, I think it is unraveling. We're starting to see it happen, and I think that we will see a turn back from some of these things in the years to come.
All right. Well, great conversation today, guys. And if people have questions about any of the topics discussed on the program, or they simply want to learn more about the Pennsylvania Family Institute, Michael, where can they find you online?
PAFamily.org.
And stay informed on all the issues in New York as well. Jason has a wonderful ministry called New York Families. Where can folks learn more about you, Jay?
NewYorkFamilies.org.